Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the IATEFL Young Learners and Teenagers Special Interest Group 2018 web conference around the YLT world in 24 hours. This year's web conference is kindly sponsored by National Geographic Learning. Don't miss the NGL talk, Bringing the World to the Young Learner and Teen Classroom at 1800 GMT. I'm David Dodgson. I'm the IATEFL YLTSIG web coordinator, and I'm delighted to be hosting our speakers and showcasing the East Asia region. So our first speaker in the East Asia lineup, I have the pleasure of introducing, is Mari Nakamura, who's showcasing Japan. Mari has 25 years experience of teaching young learners at her language school, English Square, in Kanazawa City, Japan. She's also delivered numerous teacher training seminars and has authored several ELT textbooks and picture books. She also has a master's degree in TEYL, Teaching English to Young Learners, from Aston University. Over to you, Mari.
Thank you. Thank you, David. And thank you, everybody who has helped me setting this up. It has been a good challenge for me, and everybody has been so kind. As David said, I'm teaching English in Japan, and today I'm going to discuss how to motivate primary EFL learners, specifically in Japan, through intercultural projects. Let me start my session with this question to you, everybody here. How often do your primary level English classes meet per year? Can you type in your answers to this question in the chat box? And that'll be helpful if you could type in your country to clarify where you are teaching. In my case, I have a private language school here in Kanazawa City in Japan, and I have 42 lessons per year, only 42, and each lesson is for about 60 minutes. So that is my teaching context. That is a private language school, so students come to my school after their elementary school. So it is an after-school curriculum, not the school curriculum. Now, let me move on to next. In Japan, here is a summary of learning context in Japan. So the challenge is here. Students have very limited instruction time. At a typical primary school here, grades 3 and 4 students have lessons only 35 times a year, and grade 5 and 6 students have 50 lessons per year. And one lesson is only for 45 minutes. So you can see here, how limited the instruction time is at elementary schools here. And English education in Japan is going through some big changes. English education has been going through some transition period now. Education Ministry is now trying to make it better for Japanese students. So instruction times varies from school to school. At public language schools like mine, usually the classes meet only for 36 to 48 times per year, and one lesson is usually for 45 minutes to, the longest, as far as I know, it's something like 90 minutes. And students have very little exposure to English language outside of the classrooms. For example, most of the TV programs are only available in Japanese. So our challenge here is to how we can make our students' English learning come alive and keep them motivated. It's a really, really big challenge here. And as a way to meet the challenge, I have been implementing intercultural projects at my school since 2015. And today I'm going to introduce what I have been doing to meet the challenge at my school using some examples from these exchange programs with 3 countries. So you can see 3 illustrations here. Can you guess which countries we have done the intercultural projects with? Basically, we have exchanged letters and messages from these countries. If you can guess the countries, please type in the chat box. Yep, Brazil, Yukiko, well done. And yes, Leslie, Spain, Brazil, and Slovenia. Yes, that's right. Okay, so we have done 3 projects with Spain, Brazil, and Slovenia. Now, let me explain to you these projects one by one. The first project started in 2015 with an elementary school in Spain. It started in fall 2015 and it continued into the winter of 2016. And the second session started in 2017 and lasted until 2018. Grades 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 students participated in this project and exchanged mini books, posters, Christmas cards, and New Year's cards with the students around the same age in Spain. You can see some pictures here. You can see how excited my students are. First, my students have done a little of research about Spain while we were waiting for the letters and messages from Spain. And here you can see my students holding the mini books they have received from Spain. They're really excited. And you can also see 2 of my students taking a look at the mini books from Spain, and they really enjoyed discussing what they have found in the messages from their Spanish friends. For most of the students, it was the first time to receive messages from foreign countries, so I believe that that made quite a big impact on them. And in response to those mini books, younger students made mini books as well. You can see the pictures of their mini books here. It was around the Christmas time, so some of the students included some Christmas trees or Christmas presents in the illustrations. Basically, in these mini books, they have introduced themselves using very simple languages. For example, hello, my name is, and I'm 7 years old, or I have a toy car, this is my family, and they support their message with beautiful illustrations and pictures. They also included some questions to ask to their Spanish friends. And then we sent these mini books together to the school in Spain, and we got responses from them, and then my students sent some posters and letters and messages back to them. Here you can see some samples made by older students. Older students wrote some and made some New Year's cards. You can see the New Year's cards on the left side. It is a part of our culture. It is a part of our tradition to exchange New Year's cards in Japan. So it was a way for them to introduce our own culture to foreign students. And on the right side, you can see some posters that my students made. I was quite honestly really surprised to see how much time and energy they have put into this work. They are really, really artistic, and their writing was really interesting for me to read and discover something that I have never seen or I have never understood before this project about my students. Yeah, let's see, that's right. one of the students made shamisen out of paper. And here is the second project that was done with a Brazilian school. That was a junior high school in Brazil. It started in 2016, and a little older students participated in this project from my school because there was a project with a junior high school in Brazil. So you can see some bigger students here. We exchanged posters, letters, and video messages in this project. Now I'd like you to see a video message that was made by a grade 5 boy. He talks about his life here, and he asks some questions to Brazilian students. Can you play the video now, David?
Itsuki. I'm 11 years old. Itsuki. I'm 11 years old and in the 5th grade. Now my hobby is making robot programs. It's difficult and fun. And my favorite sport is basketball. I like to shoot under the basket. It's easy. I like soccer too. I'm interested in capoeira. Do you like capoeira? Thank you.
All right, now let's go to the PowerPoint. So as you saw, this student introduced himself on the video, and I sent the video to the teacher in Brazil, and the students over there enjoyed watching these videos. Okay, and next, here's a project with school in Slovenia. This is a project we've done this year. Grades from 4 to 8 students participated in this project and exchanged letters and sent yosegaki, thank you message boards. That is a part of our tradition to send a thank you message at the end of the interaction. So we've included, the message in the project. Every time we do the project like this, I ask my students to do some research on the country that we are interacting with. And you can see here the sample of my students' work for the research. They used the internet and the books to do some research on Slovenia and brought their results to the classroom. And one of my students wrote in his notebook that he found love in Slovenia. And I was quite surprised by his observation. Can you guess what he meant? He found love in Slovenia. Here, within the word Slovenia, you can see the spelling of L-O-V-E. That's what he meant. I was really surprised by his depth of understanding of, the culture and, the research, and it was really amazing, as you can see. And we got these letters from Slovenia. My students were really surprised to see, most of the letters were written in capital letters. That was a big surprise for my students. And our students wrote letters back to them, and we exchanged letters a few times. You can see some samples here. They are the letters from Japan to Slovenia. And to wrap up this project with Slovenian school, as I mentioned briefly, my students wrote yosegaki, that is a message board that is used in Japan. When we say goodbye to somebody, usually the school teachers or the friends, when, you know, they move to somewhere else to say goodbye. So we use this form of message to say goodbye to Slovenian friends. Last month, I conducted a survey to get some insights into my students' perceptions of these projects. 46 students from grade 5 to grade 6 participated in this survey. And it took the form of a paper and pencil questionnaire to make it easy for my students to answer. They answered in Japanese. They filled out the form at home and submitted it at the following lesson. And of course, I asked the parental permission to participate in the survey. And also, I asked the parents not to help them fill out the form so that I can get some candid opinions and impressions from my students. Here was the first question I asked. What did you think of the project? And as you can see here, most of the students said it was a lot of fun. And we should take into consideration the fact that children are eager to please teachers, but even still, I think this is a really positive result. And the second question was this one. What have you learned and noticed through the project in terms of English? That was an open-ended question. About half of the students mentioned how they were surprised to see different writing styles and expressions in the students, in their friends' letters. For example, the capital letters in Slovenian friends' letters, and also the cursive writing in Brazilian students' writing. And of course, they found some expressions that they haven't learned at my school, and they were very eager to use the dictionaries and ask me questions for clarification. And to my surprise, quite a lot of students expressed their appreciation for the value of English as a lingua franca. For example, one of the students mentioned, our first languages are different, but we are both studying English. English is popular. And the other student said, my foreign friend is learning English just like me. That's cool. Of course, these comments made me really, really happy. And a few of my students shared signs of tolerance for ambiguity. This is very, very important for Japanese students because in our culture, we tend to worry too much about mistakes and errors in our speech and in our writing, and we tend to be scared to share our ideas in English. One of the students said, I didn't understand some of the words in the letters from my friend, but I could communicate with him. I'm surprised. Another student said, maybe my English was not perfect, but my friend answered my questions. And he left an emoji with a smiley. And that was really, really deep insight for them. The next question was, what have you learned and noticed through the project in terms of culture? It was, again, an open-ended question. And of course, most of the students share their culture awareness. And most of them are quite childlike and very pure and innocent. One of the students said, Brazilian children have a longer summer vacation, and that's not fair. Because we have very short summer vacation and we get lots of homework from school. And one student said, family bond is stronger in Slovenia than in Japan. Perhaps this student is really busy with studying and going to some after-school program and cram schools, so the students may not have enough time with their family, with his or her family. And And one student said Spanish children have a lot of pets. And a few students showed their understanding of commonality across cultures. One student mentioned Slovenia has its special cake, and we have ours too. Our city, Kanazawa, is famous for Japanese sweets, and this finding for the students was quite amazing. And one student said, we both like our families and friends. And also one student said, we are different, but we are also the same. And some other comments that students have left are as follows. Imagining where my letter was traveling was exciting. Yeah, I could see from my students' faces that they were really excited to see their letters were delivered in foreign countries. Actually, everybody really enjoyed the experience. One student wrote this. While writing my letter, I imagined how my friend would respond to my questions. It was a lot of fun. So this student found a really deep meaning when they were writing the letters and sending the letters to the foreign country. And one of the students said, what I used to feel normal was not normal. It surprised me. I want to do this project again. And in this survey, I asked my students whether they want to do this project again. And to my surprise, all of the students said they wanted to do the project again. And the next question was this. What media other than letters do you want to use next time? It was an open-ended question. And most of the students said they wanted to have interaction through the video call or social media. So my next challenge will be to use perhaps Skype or some sort of social media to make the interaction even more real for my students. There are some comments that belong to others, and two of my students say they want to go to the country by themselves. And I think that would be wonderful if they could do that sometime in the future. And the next question was this. What country do you want to do a project with next time? It was an open-ended question. My guess was that most of the students might want to have the project with English-speaking countries because they are learning English. But to my surprise, about half of the students mentioned the countries that are not English-speaking countries. And 39% of the students mentioned English-speaking countries like the USA, the UK, and Australia. And some students didn't mention any countries, but they said, for example, they want to interact with countries whose cultures are different from Japan or whose cultures are similar to Japan. And I asked them why they want to do this project with those countries. And here are some comments. They were really interesting for me to read. One student said, I do capoeira, so I want to do a project with Brazil again. Capoeira, I was quite surprised because I learned through this project that there are some Brazilian people living in my prefecture, and there's a very famous capoeira teacher. And one of my students is learning capoeira from that teacher. And actually, they were in a newspaper, in a local newspaper, when they won at the competition. So I learned something from this project too. And another student said, I want to talk about K-pop stars with Korean students. Another student said, I want to exchange letters with students in Irkutsk in Russia, one of the sister cities of Kanazawa. Kanazawa is our city. I want to make friends with students in Italy and France, another student said, because I like historical cities and architecture. Another student said, I want to do this project with Australia because they have the opportunity, they have the opposite seasons from ours, and I'm curious how it affects their lifestyles. So what we can see from these comments is that young learners are making some connections between this project and their own personal interest or knowledge or their experiences that they have in Japan. So they are making the connection, personal connection between English learning experience and their own lives. That is something very special about this project. That's what I believe to be the benefit of this project. And here are some final comments. Here's my take on this project and what I learned from the survey. Intercultural project can make some positive impacts on my students' English learning experience because they give children opportunities to use English for authentic communication. And they nurture children's appreciation for English as a lingua franca and diverse cultures. They encourage children to make connections between their daily lives and the outside world. And, as you saw, children enjoy the experience. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed this talk as much as I have done. And now it's about the right time to get some questions from you. If you do have any, please type in your questions in the chat box. The students make these posters in class or at home. Thank you, Leslie, for asking the questions. Students made a poster at home because we have very limited instruction time, as you know. And Rebecca, thank you for the question. How did you connect with partner schools? I've got to say that I've been very, very fortunate. I've met these teachers on the Facebook. These teachers have been looking for some schools to correspond with. And, you know, kind of we found out each other on the Facebook. At first, the Spanish school made the post on the English Teachers Book Facebook page, and that is how we found out about the schools. So if any of you are interested in, you know, having this kind of project with me, you can contact me through the Facebook. You can see the address here. Amy, have you ever thought? Maybe have you ever thought about doing this kind of project using Zoom or Skype? Yes, I've been thinking about it. So far, it has not been possible because of the time lag and the private issue and security issue. But now I'm in touch with a school in Israel, and perhaps we are going to do some Skype talk with them if everything works out. Zoom will be a good interface too. Thank you, David. Thank you, Sinem. Thank you, David, for your support. I cannot hear you, but perhaps it is time to say goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Bye, David.
Okay, hello, Marie. Sorry, I was having a few audio problems there during your talk.
Hello?
I think you can hear me now. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful talk. And it's, yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure everybody agrees that was a wonderful addition to our web conference. I'm going to end the recording now. So thank you everyone for joining us and for your questions. And we will be back in 5 minutes for our next session, starting at 4 a.m. GMT. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.